All right, good morning and Happy New Year. What we have here is a student work that is in progress, and they've asked for some help, so I thought I'd make a video here to share for everybody to enjoy. On the left here you have the original image and the reference, and then on the right here you have the work in progress and what's taken place so far. A lot of great things happening. So we're just going to look at where we would go from here. And I've placed some colors out on the palette. Of course, I've used a couple of crutch colors here, and you can reference other videos for what that means. But the two crutch colors, I've got the dioxazine purple here and the hooker's green here, which are both listed as crutch colors. But then I also have ultramarine, naphthol crimson, yellow oxide, primary yellow, and titanium white. And those are all part of the basic six. So you could make the dioxazine if you had the ultramarine and the naphthol. You could just kind of speed it up and get something close to that. You could also make it with the ultramarine and the alizarin crimson if you had that. But just for the reference of this video, I've gone ahead and just placed it there. Same thing with hooker's green. You can get it with ultramarine, a dab of yellow oxide, and a little bit of primary yellow together will give you ultramarine, but I've just gone ahead and squished out the hooker's green just for convenience of the video. So we go through the process, the basic six colors we're talking about, but there's also 6 phases to a painting. And so that's kind of questioning where you're at. Did you get the gesture, the measure, excuse me, the block in, the shadows, the high and low, and the highlights? That's all referenced in another video as well. So whenever you identify that you're within a stage, which in this one it's already obviously been gestured, measured, blocked in, the shadows have been referenced, and it's kind of in that back and forth process. This is stage number 5 at this point. But within each stage you also want to kind of identify shape, value, and color. And so within the shape, that's what we would look at things first, and that's kind of going back and revisiting any drawing. So again, this is not like it's not what I should have done, is more of what I could do better next time if I had to re-reference the painting. So we'll just look at some of the basic drawings. So within the shape, the first thing that I'm noticing or seeing, and I can use my brush as a reference tool here, but look at the pathway right here, the top of the pathway, and I can use the brush as an angle. You see how it's angled slightly downward? If I were to place the brush right alongside, it goes slightly downward. But look here at how elongated this has become, right? So if I was choosing to, what I could do is I could lower the pathway a little bit, and what I'm seeing is that it's kind of brought down and over a little bit. And I'm drawing on top of a transparency PS. I put a transparency on top so that I can kind of reference without messing up the image. And all I did was just print this image from a photo that was texted to me. So I can just pull that down a little bit, okay? And then in turn, that's gonna also lower this horizon line just a little bit as well. But if I do that, I can minimize the amount of information that's coming through here. I can pull that down also. Okay, then I can begin to look for other shapes that are within it as well. So, for example, these tree clusters that I'm seeing, on the reference, I'm seeing like a diamond shape of red, basically. And so I could fill in all of this with a little bit of red and green, and I see the drawing here is looking really good. I can just fill more of that in, and this is just an approach to do it. And you can see the student already did it here with the way that they were pulling that information out. So they already treated it modular over here. You can do the same thing over here and just doing it with color. So what I'm seeing is some dark green here, right? There's a little bit of brighter green here, and I can literally just piece these shapes together in that fashion so that I've got, you know, a little something going on that looks more like an abstract, right? So once I get the drawing amended, the other things in here look really great. I do see if this lowers, then this would be a little bit more of a dip in that back horizon line. And then this would probably stay the same, but it would become the light colors of the mountains here, right? And then, here, let me take this off. I'm gonna flip it around. So now we can do it with actual paint, and we'll see what's going on here. So I'm just using small brushes because this is a little itty bitty, you know, image here. So I'm just going to be working to kind of correct. And I'm also putting it on a transparency, so it's not going to stick, so this isn't the best way to learn, but it gets the point across. So I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow oxide and a little bit of my primary yellow, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of the Hooker's green and white, so that I have this golden greenish color that I can very easily come on here and just kind of cap off the top of this road. Okay, and it may mean that I have to readdress the hay bales a little bit, and this isn't necessary. You don't have to make these changes. It's just like another way to get the shape of it first, right? So just a very small amendment that can be done there with coverage, and then I can come back in and mix a little bit of the hay bales, and I'm going to take some dioxazine purple and some yellow oxide and make up a kind of a brownish color, something close in proximity to it that I can kind of dip dap. And again, this is transparency, so it's not going to stick too well. It's actually not bad. And then I can come and highlight with a little bit of white on top. And it may seem kind of obsolete, but lowering it just that little bit will make a difference. And then I can just kind of glaze back over with the light green here, and then everything else in turn can drop. So I'll take some dark value here and lower that, right, for the tree settings. This orangey tree color looks good, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the ultramarine blue, and I'm going to neutralize it with a small touch of red, and then I'm going to lighten it with some white and get a pretty decent sky color. Or it's going to be a little bit darker than the sky because I'm actually putting some of the mountains on there, and I can kind of shelter out some of these trees, right, and create the shape. And then as I want to move into sky, I can just go a little bit brighter with the white, right, and create more of that. Sorry. And then I'm going to take some of this red and a little bit of the green to create kind of an olive. It's going to be more dominant with the red, but it does have a little bit of green in there to make the olive color. And then I'm going to kind of block in this whole shape to become a tree. And I'm not going to put all the little feathery, put a little bit of ochre in there too. I'm not going to put the feathery leaves that are overlapping onto the sky just yet. I'm just trying to get an overall shape for mass, right, on top of that form. And I can come up here and kind of dip dap in some of this just to connect. There's definitely some connection going on here, right, where this is connected. There's a little bit here, and I love it's already kind of been addressed. You can see so much that's going right with this already, that's heading in that direction. So we're just building off of that, and I'm going to take a little bit of the purple and a little bit of the green, and I'm going to deepen this area over here so that it becomes a little bit darker in value. And notice I'm not really creating a tree texture just yet. I'm not, trying to purposely dip dap. Now the transparency is creating some of that, but I'm not trying to dip it. I'm just looking at solid, massive strokes where I'm getting darker value. You see how I'm just kind of mimicking it on the transparency? And I'm just using purple because it really doesn't matter. This is going back to value. I'm just putting some dark value, right, to push all that stuff back. It's still very much modular, unified, right? But I'm just mimicking these dark values. Okay. So I'll just mix up dark colors. I don't even care about the colors. I'm just putting them on here deep. And then this is all looking good with this tree over here. I'm going to deepen some of this value, and then I can start stretching that across on the pavement. Now in the pavement here, I love these tones. This is one of my favorite parts because I love the warmth that's addressed here and the coolness that's addressed here. It's very much duplicated. I'm just going to take it one step further, and I'm going to take a little bit of the purple And again, you can mix this purple. I think the colors used here were probably as originally instructed. They were the ultramarine and the yellow oxide together and white. And those colors together, the ultramarine, the yellow oxide, and the white together will give you a pavement or cement kind of color. Now I'm adding a little bit of the dioxazine purple because I also would like a little bit of a shadow. But again, remember, you can make dioxazine by adding what? Ultramarine and naphthol crimson. So really, I'm still taking this original recipe of these three colors to make pavement, and I'm just adding a little bit of red to it. That's all I'm doing by adding the purple. Okay, so I do want it to be a little bit more on the dominant side of the ultramarine. I'm just adding a little bit of that purple to give it a little bit more of a smoky shadow look. Also, I need my value to be darker, right? Because the shadow value here in the picture is a little bit darker. So I need to create that by adding a little bit of movement. Now, if you put the color down and it looks a little bit too purple, then you have too much of that proportion and you need to add some of the other colors until it becomes neutralized and becomes the color you're looking for. Again, this is a transparency, so the colors aren't going to blend the same. So I'm not too much worried about it, but I'm just giving you an identifiable ballpark. But you can see that deepening the value is already kind of taking the painting a little bit further. I'm going to create some of this darkness here, right? I can pull that over. And then this fine line of darkness that edges the road, the new road that we've done, and then kind of has it's going up into the trees. You see how this atmosphere has already been created where it's been able to push the whole thing back. And I'm also noticing that back here in the background, see there's a little bit of dark value here behind the trees, so I can begin to acknowledge that in the painting as well, where I just put a little bit of value, and I'm going to use my finger to kind of touch and lighten it just a little bit. I don't want it to be super dark. Okay, and then one final thing that I'm going to kind of touch on in this video is the trees up here. Once I've created that modular spacing, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and create some of the sky color. And again, I said I was going to do it by doing ultramarine, a little touch of the naphthol crimson, and a little bit of white, right? And get a real kind of pale color going on there. And I can come back and I can kind of dip-dap in between the trees with the corner of the brush. And I know a couple of other students, we've talked about this, creating the light after the fact. And it seems like kind of maybe going around your elbow to get to your backside. But really, to me, it's become so much more effective when painting flowers and trees and stuff to just paint the light back on. And if you look at a lot of these paintings that are out there, you can kind of see where the artists are doing that. You can really see where they're painting the light on top. And again, the transparency is not allowing a super effective, but you get the gist, right? That is turning into trees there. And then, of course, I can go back and make amendments and continue to add. Now, I'm not going to add Hooker's green by itself. I seldom to never use colors straight out of the tube anymore. I always kind of dip-dap it in something. That red's super powerful, so I had to kind of wipe off some of that. But I want to create an olivey color over here with the, you like my adjectives, olivey. So Hooker's green and naphthol crimson, I'm going to kind of mix that together to get this olive type color, and maybe just the smallest touch of the ochre or yellow oxide. See how nice that color is? It's very neutral. And I can come back up and I can kind of tippy tap some other leaf clusters on here just to kind of build. I'm working on my original shape, so if I see tap, 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 tap there, then I'm going to go tap, 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 tap here just to build a foundational color, right? And then I can go back and add more, yellow oxide to the mixture or more primary yellow to the mixture or whatever I need to do because I'm working dark to light, right? And so the yellow is going to be very transparent, so I can add small touches of white that will help it get lighter. And then slowly I can build that lightness onto the trees. And I don't want to polka dot. A lot of times we polka dot and separate. And that's, when I'm working, a lot of times I want to have like a lot of saturated connection on the bottom with dark value. And then I want to work my way up to a lighter and a lighter, so that the higher up I move on the structure, the lighter it gets, right? And that's how some of them can be polka dotted, but I want the structure to have some movement so that it's not just like bam, 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 right? So Once you have that added, you can go and kind of piecemeal that on here and get a sense of what's going on. When I'm looking at the original here, I'm seeing that the branches are a darker value than this muted background. And here, I can't really see the distinction. So what I may choose to do is, for sake of quickness here, I'm just going to kind of mute out this by masking. And masking is when you take an opaque color like white or buff and you glaze over it to push everything back in value. So I'm choosing to mask that background, which is like a haziness, which is now letting the tree branches emerge forward, right? And then I can choose to put some dark tree branches on top, which really help that pop now so that it's visible, okay? So you can carry the same concept over here on these trees, and you'll do the same thing building with color and adding some red. It won't be red out of the tube. It'll still have a little bit of green in it, but it's going to be a higher proportion of red than what was there before, right? And it's going to let the trees start to emerge, but it's got such a more I don't know, a softer transition. You know, it's there, but it's not super stark. And if it feels too bright, you can just manipulate it by touching, and it'll soften it down. Every time we touch it, it manipulates or softens the color down. So I can put something down once, and it's super bright. Let me get something visible there. So see how super bright that is? But then I can kind of touch it and soften it out. And the more I manipulate it, the softer the value gets. You see how that's kind of dissipating? So the same thing's happening on the canvas. If I put it down and it's like in your face scarlet red, then, you know, just tap it a little bit with your brush or your finger. And in some cases, we over manipulate, right? So I can put a color down and I can kind of tap it so that it transitions, but sometimes we don't know when to quit tapping and we tap everything and it becomes one big modular muddy mess. And then we have to go back and redefine our boundaries by putting the bright red again, and then we have to come back and do the yellow again, right? And we have to redefine all of that. And those are the boundaries that we learn within the painting process. But again, these were dry erase markers that I was using to amend on top for the drawing. But this is an easy way to kind of correct yourself and check yourself without damaging your actual painting. And I'm glad to do this for you if it's within time or reason. So you can just text me, ask me for some help. And this is a great way for us to learn and share. And of course, posting it on the forum helps it be visible to everybody who may be sharing some of these some of these things that they're wanting to address as well. So I appreciate it, and roughly that's what we're looking at, okay, with changes, and then there it was without them again. So I'm going to zoom in on this really quick so you can get a, okay, so hopefully that helps with the image, and then there it is again without the image, right? So once with, and then once with. Changes. Okay, so I hope that y'all again have a happy and safe new year, and I hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you in 2018.